Hello, my name is Jerry Granata. I'm from Palm Springs, California, and it's my pleasure and honor to be able to be here at the 2015 International Quilt Festival. And I would love to tell you a little bit about my quilt, Fly Me to the Moon, which won first place in Art, People, Portraits, and Figures category. It was an honor to win, and I would love to tell you a little bit about my quilt. I'm known in the quilting world for using unusual fabrics. I will use lame, silk, satin, brocades, upholstery fabric, even aluminum foil in my quilts. And you'll notice a feature in this quilt is the use of lame. And people ask me, what do I do with it? How do I treat it? One thing that I do on this quilt is I used a fusible cotton batiste, which is a very thin heirloom quality cotton. And it has a fusible on the back of it because I knew that I'd be turning the edges under, and I wanted those edges to be nice and strong when I appliqued them onto the background. So that's how I handled that. A couple interesting stories about this quilt. When it hung at its first show, I noticed that the crystals were not shiny enough. So I had just used plain rhinestone hot fix. So I wanted to switch them all out to Swarovskis. So I had to reheat each crystal, take it off, and resubmit a Swarovski on top of that. And there's about 900 crystals in the entire quilt. So that took a while. Another thing I noticed was in the binding, I didn't have the razzle-dazzle thread on the edges of it. So it looked kind of funny. Some of the pieces looked like they were just floating. So I hand couched some razzle-dazzle between the binding and the quilt, and that framed it out nicely. As I said earlier, that I do use a lot of unusual fabrics in my quilts, and this quilt probably in 10 years is the most cotton that I have ever used. Most of the time I use a lot of unusual fabrics, and I decided in this instance to stick with some cotton for the brighter colors and for more of a flat appeal to it. I really wanted to showcase the quilting and the texture of each of the planets. So I did choose a matching top thread and bobbin thread to the fabric, because I wanted you all to see the texture but not necessarily have a high contrast in the thread itself. So that's where that came from. You'll also notice that each of the colors gets their own quilt pattern. So that's how I spread the continuity through the whole quilt. So wherever you see a light purple with a pattern, you'll find that same pattern in the light purple throughout the entire quilt. And the same goes through the background. Wherever you see the black, you will see a continuity. So it was my pleasure to talk with you today about my quilt, Fly Me to the Moon, and I appreciate it.